If you could peel back the golden sands of Egypt, you'd find not just the remains of an ancient civilization, but questions. Endless, haunting questions. Beneath the towering pyramids, the shattered temples, and the eternal gaze of the Sphinx lies a past that refuses to reveal all its secrets. Tonight, we journey not only through ruins and relics, but into mysteries so profound that even the greatest minds in history have stood before them in awe and confusion. Mysteries that whisper of lost knowledge, forgotten technology, and truth so strange they challenge the limits of our understanding. Imagine vast labyrinths hidden beneath the earth, tombs said to hold the keys to the afterlife, and ancient devices hinting at sciences far ahead of their time. Imagine warnings carved into stone by hands that lived thousands of years before history itself began. As you listen, let your imagination drift through the endless desert. Feel the cool air of forgotten chambers and hear the wind that has carried these secrets for millennia. But beware, once you step into this world of ancient enigmas, it may never truly leave you. Some mysteries, after all, are not meant to be solved, only experienced. Welcome to Egypt's most unexplained mysteries. Beneath the sands of Egypt, far from the crowded pyramids and bustling tourist trails, lies a story almost too vast, too grand and too forgotten for history to contain. It is the story of a labyrinth, not a mythical maze from legend, but a real, colossal structure once described as more astonishing than all the other wonders of Egypt combined. The first and most vivid account comes from the Greek historian Herodotus. Writing in the 5th century BCE, he had marveled at the pyramids, the temples, and the monuments of Thebes. But when he saw the labyrinth near the ancient city of Crocodilopolis, modern-day Hawara, he declared it more awe-inspiring than anything else he had encountered. According to Herodotus, the labyrinth contained over 3,000 rooms, arranged on 2 levels, one above ground and one below. Corridors twisted and turned endlessly, branching into halls and chambers so complex that even seasoned guides often lost their way. The walls and ceilings were built from enormous slabs of stone, fitted so precisely that no mortar was required. Reliefs and towering columns adorned its halls, rivaling the artistry of Egypt's greatest temples. Beneath the structure lay the tombs of kings and sacred crocodiles, sealed away from all but the high priests. Centuries later, both Strabo and Pliny the Elder confirmed the labyrinth's existence, describing it as more like a city than a single building, a staggering architectural marvel that dwarfed imagination itself. So why? Then is this wonder barely remembered today? Why doesn't it stand beside the Great Pyramid or the Sphinx as one of the world's most famous sites? Time, nature, and human hands share the blame. Many believe the labyrinth was dismantled during later dynasties, its stones repurposed for other monuments. Earthquakes shook the region, the Nile shifted course, and centuries of sand slowly buried what remained. When modern archaeologists arrived, little of its grandeur survived above ground, but tantalizing traces still linger. In the 1880s, British archaeologist Sir Flinders Petrie, often called the father of modern archaeology, excavated the site near Hawara. While his main focus was the pyramid of Amenemhat III, Petrie uncovered vast foundations and scattered stone ruins that hinted at something immense beneath his feet. Later expeditions found even more evidence of buried structures, but no intact chambers. Then, in 2008, a Belgian-Egyptian team known as the Matahar Expedition used ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the sands of Hawara. What they discovered astonished them. Massive geometric formations buried deep underground, patterns consistent with walls, corridors, and rooms. The data suggested a sprawling man-made complex lying undisturbed below the surface, eerily matching Herodotus's description. And yet, the findings were never fully excavated or officially released. After a brief burst of excitement, the results vanished quietly from public view. Some blamed bureaucracy, others whispered about deliberate suppression. Whatever the reason, the possible rediscovery of one of Egypt's greatest lost wonders remains veiled in mystery. If the labyrinth truly lies hidden beneath Hawara, what might it contain? Ancient texts speak of walls covered with inscriptions, histories and knowledge that could rewrite what we know of Egypt. Tombs of kings may still rest untouched, their treasures and secrets preserved by time. Perhaps it was more than a tomb. Perhaps it was a repository of knowledge, a library of stone preserving the wisdom of an age long forgotten. Some even believe the labyrinth was designed to protect knowledge, inherited from a civilization older than Egypt itself, a remnant of a golden age destroyed by cataclysm, like the legends of Atlantis. These theories stretch beyond accepted history, but with so little excavation and so many unanswered questions, imagination finds fertile ground. For now, the labyrinth remains what it has always been, a whisper beneath the sands, an ancient promise just beyond reach. It reminds us that even in a land as studied as Egypt, the greatest secrets may still lie buried, waiting for those bold enough to uncover them. If we move north toward the desert plateau of Dashur, south of Cairo, a strange sight rises from the sands, a pyramid that looks wrong. At first glance, it appears like any other ancient monument, majestic, sharply defined, and nearly intact. But as your eyes follow its sides upward, you notice a sudden change. The lower half rises steeply, only for the angle to shift dramatically halfway up, giving the structure a warped, almost broken silhouette. This is the bent pyramid, an architectural enigma that has baffled experts for over 4,500 years. Built during the reign of Pharaoh Sneferu around 2600 BCE, it represents both triumph and uncertainty, a moment when ambition and experimentation collided. Sneferu was not a ruler content with mediocrity. He sought to transform Egypt's step pyramids into smooth, gleaming monuments that would endure for eternity. Under his reign, pyramid building evolved from crude prototypes to near perfection. He was, in many ways, the true father of the Pyramid Age, the visionary who made the Great Pyramid of Giza possible. But ambition can be dangerous. The bent pyramid's unusual shape tells a story of risk and adaptation. Initially built at a steep 54-degree angle, the structure began to show cracks as it rose higher. Fearing collapse, engineers altered the slope midway through construction to a gentler 43 degrees, saving the monument but leaving it forever marked by its flaw. The result is haunting, a pyramid that seems to bow under the weight of its own daring, a monument frozen at the precise moment human innovation met its limits. Even today, the bent pyramid remains one of Egypt's best-preserved pyramids, with much of its original limestone casing still intact. It stands as a testament to both the genius and fallibility of the ancient Egyptians, a monument to trial, error, and resilience in pursuit of immortality. And so, from the lost labyrinth of Hawara to the strange angles of Dashur, Egypt continues to remind us that the past is never truly silent. Beneath every grain of sand, behind every weathered stone, another story waits to be told, another question waiting to be asked. Theories abound about why the bent pyramid's slope changes so abruptly midway through construction. The most widely accepted explanation is simple and practical: an engineering failure. According to this view, the pyramid's architects originally designed it with a steep 50-degree angle to achieve impressive height and grandeur. But partway through, they realized the structure was in danger of collapsing. The immense weight of the limestone blocks and the unstable foundation beneath them caused dangerous internal cracking. To prevent total disaster, they reduced the angle to a gentler 43 degrees, easing the pressure and allowing the project to survive. This mistake theory seems reasonable. After all, early pyramid building was an age of trial and error. Engineers were learning by doing, testing how far stone could be pushed before it rebelled. The collapsed pyramid at Meidum, likely an earlier experiment gone wrong, stands as a grim reminder of the risks of ambition without structural mastery. Yet not everyone is convinced by the idea that the bent pyramid was simply a botched attempt rescued mid-construction. Some archaeologists and independent researchers argue that it shows too much precision and care to have been improvised. The internal chambers and passageways are expertly aligned, and the casing stones, many still in place today, fit together so perfectly that even a modern razor blade could not slip between them. If this was a salvage job, why such perfection? More intriguingly, the pyramid's unusual geometry seems to have given it exceptional stability. The shift in angle distributed weight more efficiently, reducing stress on the lower courses and making cracks less likely. Paradoxically, the very design, once dismissed as flawed, may have been the key to the pyramid's survival. It has retained more of its original casing than any other in Egypt. Then there is the question of symbolism. In Egypt, form and function were never separate. Every monumental structure was an act of theology rendered in stone. The pyramid's shape symbolized the primordial mound, the sacred rise of land emerging from the waters of chaos, the beginning of creation itself. Could the bent pyramid's dual slope be a deliberate spiritual metaphor? Some believe the change represents the path of the sun, rising steeply in the morning sky before curving gently toward the horizon, an architectural hymn to rebirth and cosmic balance. Others see in it the duality of existence, life and death, earth and heaven, human and divine, brought together in a single breathtaking monument. A few even venture into more speculative territory, suggesting that the pyramid's strange shape and acoustics were no accident, that it was designed as a resonance chamber, meant to amplify sound or vibrational energy. The internal chambers, perfectly shaped and positioned, might have been tuned like instruments to channel frequencies for ritual or technological purposes. Mainstream Egyptology dismisses such theories, but the fact remains, no explanation fully satisfies the mystery. As you walk through the bent pyramid's narrow passages, the air cool and ancient, it's impossible not to feel the presence of minds that dared to dream on a scale that defies comprehension. Were they correcting a failure or creating something far greater than we understand? The answer lies buried in the silence of its chambers, sealed behind 4,500 years of stone and sand, and yet the pyramid still speaks. It whispers through its endurance. Even now, under the relentless desert sun, it stands intact, a survivor of ages, its meaning just out of reach. Perhaps that is its truest legacy, not an accident, but an invitation to wonder. In recent decades, modern science has turned its gaze on the bent pyramid, probing its secrets without laying a single chisel on its walls. Using infrared thermography, 3D laser scanning, and even cosmic ray muon imaging, researchers have begun to peer into its hidden heart. What they've found only deepens the mystery. Inside, the pyramid contains not one, but two large chambers, each built at different levels and connected by tight, sloping passageways. This is highly unusual. Most pyramids, such as Khufu's Great Pyramid, have a single main burial chamber, or a few smaller ones clustered together. Why then would Sneferu's engineers create two vast separate spaces within a single monument? One theory sees this duality as symbolic of the pharaoh's journey through the afterlife, from death to resurrection, from the realm of Osiris, god of the underworld, to the celestial domain of Ra, the sun god. The lower chamber, sunk deep in the pyramid's base, might represent the tomb and the descent into darkness. The upper chamber, nearer to the sky, the rebirth into light. Others propose a more practical explanation. The bent pyramid may have been an experimental prototype, a testing ground for ideas that would later culminate in perfection at Giza. Under Sneferu's rule, Egyptian engineers pushed architecture to its limits, refining methods for internal supports, weight distribution, and alignment. The bent pyramid, then, could have been the laboratory that birthed the golden age of pyramid construction. Even the surrounding structures raise questions. A satellite pyramid, built nearby, is unusually large and meticulously designed. Such secondary pyramids often symbolize the pharaoh's spiritual double, or K. But this one's scale suggests it might have had a more profound purpose, perhaps as a ritual temple, an alternate tomb, or even a vault for sacred knowledge. The bent pyramid's alignments are another marvel. Despite its strange shape, it is oriented with astonishing precision, within fractions of a degree of true north. How did engineers 45 centuries ago achieve such accuracy without modern instruments? What compelled them to perfect every detail of a structure supposedly marred by failure? And if this was a mistake, why does its influence echo so clearly in later monuments? The Great Pyramid of Giza, commissioned by Sneferu's son Khufu, appears to embody every lesson learned at Dashur. Its internal chambers, inclined corridors, and balanced mass reflect the culmination of experiments begun in the bent pyramid's stone bones. In this way, the bent pyramid becomes something greater than an architectural curiosity. It is the turning point of an era, the crucible from which the Pyramid Age was forged, a bridge between imperfection and immortality. But there is another possibility, one that transcends engineering. Perhaps the bent pyramid was meant to puzzle us. Ancient Egypt was a civilization that spoke in layers, where every shape, every shadow carried meaning. Maybe this pyramid's very ambiguity was its purpose, a challenge to the living to question, to interpret, to see beyond the obvious. Because what better symbol of human striving could exist than this? A monument that soars toward the heavens, falters, adjusts, and yet endures, unchanged by time, unbroken by failure. As dusk falls over Dashur, the pyramid glows in the desert twilight, its slanted silhouette cutting a jagged horizon against the stars. It stands there enigmatic and eternal, a question carved into stone. And perhaps that is its truest message. Not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some exist to remind us of the boundless reach of human imagination. Beneath the blazing Egyptian sun, among the rose-hued granite cliffs of Aswan, lies another riddle carved in stone, the unfinished obelisk. It's a sleeping colossus, half born from the living rock, waiting across millennia for a destiny it never fulfilled. Stretching an astonishing 137 feet in length and weighing over 1,100 tons, it would have been the largest monolith ever quarried by human hands, larger than any obelisk that ever stood in Egypt. Why, then, was it abandoned? How could the same civilization that raised the pyramids and mapped the stars so precisely leave such a monumental project incomplete? The accepted explanation is that a fatal crack appeared in the granite, rendering the obelisk unusable. Once the flaw was discovered, the workers simply walked away. But as you stand in that silent quarry, surrounded by red cliffs and scattered dolerite stones, that simple answer feels insufficient. The unfinished obelisk reveals a challenge that defies modern logic. How would the Egyptians, armed only with copper tools and stone pounders, have carved, lifted, and transported a single block weighing more than 1,000 tons? Even with today's cranes and machinery, it would be a staggering engineering feat. The quarry walls bear the marks of ancient labor, yet they are eerily precise. The obelisk's sides are straight, its surface is smooth, suggesting not brute force but methodical precision. Could pounding alone have achieved this? Or did the ancients possess some lost technique, perhaps a way to soften or fracture stone chemically, or even to harness vibration or sound? Mainstream archaeologists reject such theories, but certain details resist easy explanation. The grooves and tool marks etched around the quarry have a strange regularity, almost mechanical in appearance. Engineers comparing them to modern stone-cutting patterns have noted striking similarities. Is it possible the ancient Egyptians had access to methods of abrasion or cutting more advanced than we realize? Methods now forgotten to time. Whatever the truth, the unfinished obelisk remains one of the most haunting sights in Egypt. It embodies both the grandeur and the limits of human ambition. In its silence, it speaks of a moment when dream exceeded possibility, a reminder that progress often comes through failure. As twilight falls over Aswan, the granite deepens to purple under the fading light. The obelisk lies still, half-carved, half-born, a frozen testament to a civilization that never stopped reaching for the impossible. And like the bent pyramid, it whispers a challenge across the ages, to look closer, to question deeper, and to wonder endlessly at the mysteries our ancestors left behind. The slow erosion of time has swallowed countless innovations, leaving only fragments of what once was. Entire arts, sciences, and technologies have vanished into history's dust. What if ancient Egypt, at the height of its power, achieved fleeting moments of technical brilliance, bursts of mastery that later generations could never reproduce? What if the unfinished obelisk at Aswan was not merely a pharaoh's failed ambition, but the final echo of a lost art, an art that vanished forever when its craftsmen laid down their tools? Beyond the question of how such colossal monuments were quarried or moved lies a deeper mystery: why they were built at all. Obelisks were not decorative. They were cosmic instruments, symbols of creation itself. In Egyptian cosmology, they represented the primordial mound, the first piece of land to rise from the waters of chaos at the dawn of time. Their tips, often capped in gold or electrum, caught the first rays of the sun god Ra, channeling divine light into the mortal world. To raise an obelisk was to recreate the act of creation, to bridge heaven and earth. Seen in this light, the unfinished obelisk's silent form takes on tragic grandeur. It is not just an abandoned project, but a cosmic interruption, a bridge between the mortal and divine left incomplete. A monument that was meant to pierce the heavens lies trapped in the rock, its purpose unfulfilled, a dream of eternity broken mid-birth. Some have gone further, suggesting that the Egyptians' true intent with their obelisks was not purely symbolic. These towering shafts of granite may have been more than markers of worship. They may have been conduits of energy designed to harness and focus natural or cosmic forces. There is no direct scientific proof for such theories, yet the Egyptians' meticulous alignments, their obsession with proportion, and their reverence for the obelisk's form hint that these monuments played a deeper, perhaps energetic role in their worldview. If so, the unfinished obelisk may represent the uncompleted key to a forgotten science, one that once sought to merge the material and the divine. Today, visitors who walk through the Aswan quarry can still trace the chisel marks and narrow trenches that were meant to free the monolith from the living rock. One can almost hear the echo of dolerite hammers striking granite, the shouted cadence of overseers, and the rhythmic labor of thousands of workers bringing a god's command into being. But those voices are silent now. The tools have long turned to dust, and the knowledge, if it ever truly existed beyond myth, has faded into legend. All that remains is the sleeping giant itself, half-born, half-forgotten, its smooth sides catching the desert sun. It whispers across the ages of a time when humanity reached higher than it could sustain, and then forgot how it had done so. The Great Pyramid of Giza. The silent enigma, the Great Pyramid of Giza, stands not just as the crowning achievement of ancient Egypt, but as the enduring symbol of human mystery itself. The last surviving wonder of the ancient world, it looms over the desert like a question carved in stone. It is both a monument to the brilliance of the ancient Egyptians and a reminder of how much we still do not understand about them. Built for the pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops, the pyramid has long been considered his eternal resting place. Its core design seems deceptively simple, a massive limestone structure containing 3 known chambers: the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and a subterranean chamber, all connected by narrow, perfectly aligned passageways. For centuries, scholars believed this was all there was to know, yet as technology advanced, that assumption began to crumble. Scans, sensors, and probes have revealed hints of hidden voids, mysterious spaces deep within the pyramid that no human has seen for over 4,000 years. The first clues emerged in the 19th century, when explorers discovered thin shafts leading from the king's and queen's chambers to the pyramid's exterior. Too small for a person to pass through, these shafts were initially dismissed as air vents or construction quirks. But their precision and orientation suggested something far more deliberate, perhaps alignments with specific stars or symbolic pathways for the pharaoh's soul. By the late 20th century, technology began to peel back the pyramid's secrets. Infrared imaging, radar, and muon tomography, techniques capable of peering through solid stone, revealed unexplained anomalies within the structure. In 1992, Egyptologist Dr. Zahi Hawass and his team announced evidence of a large, hidden cavity near the king's chamber, an undiscovered void that could be an untouched chamber or corridor. If such a chamber exists, what could lie inside? A cache of royal treasures? Sacred relics? Or perhaps something even more profound? A hidden record of ancient knowledge, sealed away by a civilization determined to guard its greatest truths. The Great Pyramid is a masterpiece of engineering precision. Its base covers 13 acres, its sides align almost perfectly with the 4 cardinal directions, and its slope mirrors key celestial and mathematical constants. Some blocks weigh as much as 80 tons, yet they were placed with tolerances of less than a millimeter. How did the builders achieve such perfection without modern tools? And why would they go to such extraordinary lengths unless every detail served a higher purpose? To some researchers, the answer lies in the pyramid's spiritual function. Far from a mere tomb, it may have been conceived as a cosmic gateway, a bridge between the human and the divine, designed to guide the pharaoh's soul to the stars. The hidden chambers in this view were not for storing treasures, but for holding sacred relics, scrolls, or devices meant to aid the king's passage into eternity. Others take the idea even further. The pyramid's precise geometry, alignment with stellar constellations, and resonance properties have inspired theories that it functioned as an energy structure, a kind of ancient machine that harnessed the Earth's natural forces or celestial radiation. To them, the hidden voids could be part of this greater mechanism, components of a design we no longer understand. In 2017, an international team from Egypt, France, and Japan used cosmic ray muon detection to map the pyramid's internal density. Their findings confirmed the existence of a large void above the Grand Gallery, an empty space roughly 30 meters long. Its purpose remains unknown. Was it an architectural necessity, a ritual chamber, or something entirely different? The discovery reignited debate across the world. Some Egyptologists urged caution, interpreting it as a structural cavity. Others saw it as the strongest evidence yet of secret chambers, rooms that could rewrite history if ever entered. Why, after all, would the ancient Egyptians hide rooms within the pyramid so thoroughly that even modern science struggles to find them? Were they protecting sacred objects or knowledge itself? For the Egyptians, death was not an end, but a journey through transformation. The pharaoh was a god in life and sought to remain one in death. The pyramid, aligned with the stars and anchored to the earth, embodied that ascent. The lower chambers may have symbolized the realm of Osiris, the god of the underworld, while the upper spaces pointed toward the heavens, representing rebirth under the sun, god Ra. Some researchers even suggest that the hidden rooms mark stages of spiritual evolution, thresholds through which the soul would pass, each one a symbolic trial on its way to divine union. The chambers were concealed not to guard treasure, but to protect the sacred process itself, the invisible journey from mortality to immortality. And yet, the questions multiply. Could these voids contain sacred texts, papyrus scrolls, or carvings preserving knowledge lost to time? Could they conceal artifacts of technology or science that challenge our assumptions about ancient capability? Or could they hold something even more extraordinary, proof of contact with a forgotten civilization, one whose influence seeded Egypt's sudden leap into architectural and astronomical mastery? No answers have yet emerged. Every new discovery only deepens the enigma. The Great Pyramid, for all its visibility, remains the world's most impenetrable secret as the desert wind sweeps across the plateau and the setting sun paints the limestone gold. The pyramid stands silent, watching, waiting. It has seen empires rise and fall, gods worshipped and forgotten, science and faith trade places. And through it all it endures, guarding the mysteries of a civilization that perhaps knew more than we dare imagine. Some secrets, it seems, are written not to be read, but to be remembered. The Great Pyramid is one of them, a riddle of stone whispering across eternity, daring us to ask the oldest question of all: what have we forgotten? No matter how much we uncover about this magnificent structure, the Great Pyramid of Giza refuses to give up all its secrets. Each discovery only deepens the mystery, drawing us further into its timeless silence. Researchers and explorers from every generation return to it with the same burning question: what still lies hidden inside? And though modern science has brought us closer than ever before, the Great Pyramid remains what it has always been, an eternal symbol of the unknown, its hidden chambers waiting patiently for the moment when humanity is ready or worthy to unlock them. The Great Sphinx of Giza, guardian of forgotten ages, standing sentinel on the Giza Plateau. The Great Sphinx of Giza is as haunting as it is majestic. With the body of a lion and the face of a pharaoh, it gazes eastward toward the rising sun, as though keeping watch over the sands of time itself. Carved directly from the bedrock, the Sphinx has inspired reverence and confusion for thousands of years. Who built it? When? And why does it seem older, much older, than the civilization that surrounds it? The Sphinx's most puzzling feature lies not in its symmetry or colossal size, but in the erosion that scars its surface. For centuries, scholars assumed it was built around 4,500 years ago, during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, the supposed builder of the Second Pyramid of Giza. Yet in the late 20th century, a quiet revolution began when Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, studied the Sphinx with a scientist's eye rather than an archaeologist's. Assumptions. What he found changed everything. Schoch concluded that the deep vertical grooves and rounded fissures covering the Sphinx's body could not have been formed by wind and sand, the natural erosive forces of the desert. Instead, he identified patterns of water erosion, the kind produced by prolonged rainfall and flowing water. This revelation suggested something extraordinary. The Sphinx must have stood in an era when Egypt's climate was humid and wet, a world utterly unlike the desert we know today. If Schoch's findings were correct, the Sphinx could predate the pharaohs by thousands of years, perhaps built at the end of the last ice age, between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago, when heavy rains still swept across northern Africa. That would make the Sphinx not a monument of Egypt's old kingdom, but a relic from an age before recorded history, an age whose builders have vanished. The implications were staggering. If true, the Sphinx was evidence of a lost civilization, one capable of quarrying, sculpting, and aligning a 70-meter-long monument with astronomical precision. Mainstream Egyptologists, of course, pushed back. They argued that no evidence existed of such an early civilization in Egypt, that the Sphinx must be Khafre's creation, and that the erosion was caused by wind, sand, or fluctuations in groundwater. But Schoch's findings could not be dismissed so easily. The Sphinx's lower enclosure walls, shielded from the harsh desert winds, show the deepest water-weathering marks, while nearby structures carved from the same limestone display none of these patterns. How could this be explained if the Sphinx were merely 4,500 years old? The question led to even more startling theories. Some researchers suggested that the Sphinx's erosion was the legacy of a great flood, Perhaps the same global cataclysm described in ancient myths from Mesopotamia, India, and the Bible. Could the Sphinx be one of the few survivors of a world-changing event, its body bearing the scars of water that once covered the plateau? If so, who carved it? One possibility is that the Sphinx was built by a pre-Egyptian civilization, an advanced society that existed long before the rise of the dynasties. This lost culture, sometimes referred to as the proto-civilization, or even the remnants of Atlantis, might have possessed astronomical and engineering knowledge far beyond what traditional history allows. Their monument to eternity may have survived the cataclysms that erased them, only to be adopted thousands of years later by the pharaohs of Egypt, who reshaped and reinterpreted it within their own belief system. The evidence beneath the surface, the Sphinx's body, tells a geological story, but the sky above it tells another. Both the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid are aligned with astonishing accuracy to the cardinal points. The Sphinx faces directly east, greeting the sun at the spring equinox, when day and night are perfectly balanced. Some researchers have pointed out a remarkable coincidence, or perhaps a clue. The Sphinx, shaped like a lion, faces the horizon where the constellation Leo rose around 10,500 BCE. Could this alignment be intentional? If so, it places the Sphinx's construction in the age of Leo, over 12,000 years ago, precisely the period when the rains that shaped its erosion would have fallen. In this view, the Sphinx was not merely a statue, but a celestial marker, a monument linking the earth to the heavens, built by a civilization whose knowledge of astronomy rivaled or even surpassed that of the ancient Egyptians. The absence of any mention of the Sphinx in Egypt's earliest religious or historical texts only deepens the mystery. The pyramid texts, among the oldest sacred writings in existence, speak in great detail of gods, kings, and the afterlife, but not of the Sphinx. How could such an enormous monument, one of the most striking structures on the Giza Plateau, go unmentioned? Was it so ancient that its origin had already been forgotten by the time the pyramids were built? Or did later rulers deliberately erase its true history to claim Egypt's glory as their own? It would not have been the first time that power rewrote the past, a relic of a lost world. If the Sphinx truly belongs to a civilization long forgotten, it would not stand alone. Across the globe, megalithic monuments, from Stonehenge in Britain to Pumapunku in Bolivia, display similar mastery of stone and astronomy, and many are likewise unaccounted for in the written histories of their regions. Could these distant structures be the scattered remnants of a single lost culture, a global network of ancient builders connected by shared knowledge and cosmic purpose? According to some alternative researchers, the Sphinx may represent the last surviving monument of that civilization, a silent survivor of an era erased by catastrophe. The end of the Ice Age, around 10,000 BCE, saw violent climatic shifts, melting glaciers, rising seas, and massive floods. Myths of global deluge echo from culture to culture, perhaps preserving in memory what the Sphinx preserves in stone. If that is true, the Sphinx is not merely a statue, it is a warning from a forgotten world. The debate that refuses to die mainstream Egyptology continues to date the Sphinx to Khafra's reign, around 2500 BCE, citing its proximity to the Second Pyramid and the resemblance of its face to statues of the pharaoh. Yet as new geological studies and scanning technologies emerge, the arguments grow less certain. Even if the Sphinx was reshaped or repaired during Khafra's time, the core structure may be far older, a monument inherited and repurposed, its original meaning lost beneath layers of stone and myth. As the sun sets on the Giza Plateau, the Sphinx's gaze remains fixed on the horizon, as if remembering a world long drowned in the sands of time. The debate over its age, 4,500 years or 12,000, may never be resolved. But in its weathered face, carved by hands we may never know, lies a truth that transcends history, that human civilization is older, deeper and more mysterious than we have yet dared to imagine. And so, the Sphinx endures, half lion, half god, and wholly unknowable, a guardian of forgotten ages, watching in silence as the winds erase and reveal the story of humanity again and again, from the unmistakable traces of water erosion to its celestial alignment and whispers of a lost civilization. The Sphinx stands as a timeless witness to mysteries we have yet to unravel. Perhaps one day, new discoveries will reveal its true age and purpose. Until then, it remains an enigma carved in stone, a sentinel guarding secrets from a forgotten world. And as we close this chapter, one question lingers. What if the Sphinx is not simply an emblem of ancient Egypt, but the last surviving relic of a civilization erased by time? The possibilities stretch endlessly, and the mystery endures, drawing us ever closer to the truth that still hides beneath the sands. Hidden deep beneath Egypt's sands lies another riddle, the tomb of Osiris. Discovered in the 1990s near the Giza Plateau, its existence sent ripples through the world of archaeology. Some called it another royal tomb, but others saw something far greater, a possible gateway to the afterlife, a bridge between the realm of the living and the dead. Named for Osiris, god of resurrection and judge of souls, this tomb seemed less a burial place and more a symbolic portal, a sacred passage meant to echo the soul's journey beyond death. The tomb's layout is extraordinary. Long descending corridors and submerged chambers cut deep into the rock, their walls etched with strange markings and signs of ancient ritual. At its heart lies a stone altar surrounded by niches and pits, perhaps used for offerings or ceremonies invoking Osiris himself. To the ancient Egyptians, he was the divine ruler of the underworld, the god who weighed every soul's worthiness for eternal life. His mythology revolved around death, dismemberment, and rebirth, ideas that shaped Egypt's most enduring spiritual beliefs. It is fitting, then, that a structure bearing his name would be found hidden beneath Giza, the very ground where the pyramids rise like stairways to eternity. The tomb's orientation has also raised questions. Some believe its position aligns with key stars or celestial pathways, mirroring the Egyptians' conviction that the soul's ascent after death was guided by the heavens. The architecture itself seems to embody a spiritual roadmap. The long passages may represent the perilous journey through the underworld, while the inner chambers could symbolize the soul's arrival at Osiris's court. For the builders, this might not have been a tomb at all, but a sacred simulation, a physical mirror of the spiritual journey toward immortality. Even more fascinating are the sealed chambers that remain unexplored. Their purpose is unknown, and their contents may have never seen light since the day they were closed. The erosion on the surrounding stone suggests immense age, leading some to speculate that the site predates many known temples of the same era. Was this a royal tomb, a shrine, or something entirely different, perhaps a ceremonial portal designed to connect humanity directly with the divine? Ancient Egyptians believed that every soul had to pass through trials in the afterlife, facing judgment before achieving rebirth. The tomb of Osiris seems to reflect this theology in its very design. Each chamber, each winding passage may have been symbolic of these trials, a metaphysical initiation encoded in architecture. Some archaeologists believe that rituals were performed here to guide the dead safely through the underworld, invoking Osiris's power to grant eternal life. Unusual symbols etched into the walls seem to hint at these rites. They depict transitions, journeys between worlds, trials of the heart and spirit. Though their exact meaning remains elusive, they appear to outline a kind of spiritual map, one guiding the deceased through the dark realm to the light of Osiris. The tomb, therefore, was not a static resting place. It was a living ritual in stone. What makes the site even more extraordinary is the suggestion that it was not built solely for pharaohs. In Egyptian belief, resurrection was a universal promise, not a privilege of kings. The tomb of Osiris might have served as a sacred place for all who sought eternal life, a shared portal for humanity itself. And if ancient legend holds any truth, it may have been believed that Osiris's own divine essence was once present there, turning the tomb into the axis between worlds. Some even speculate that the structure was part of the pharaoh's transformation into divinity. The king, as a living embodiment of Horus, would in death become one with Osiris, continuing the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The tomb may have been the stage for this divine metamorphosis, where mortal rulers crossed into godhood. The deeper archaeologists venture, the more questions arise. Was this tomb an actual burial site? Or was it meant to represent something far more symbolic, a ceremonial gate to the afterlife itself? The quiet air, the echo of footsteps in the dark corridors, the sight of sealed chambers untouched for millennia, all seem to whisper that its builders intended it to be more than just a monument. It was a threshold, a sacred passage where life and eternity met. While researchers continue their work, the tomb of Osiris remains one of Egypt's most haunting enigmas. Whether it was a literal gateway or a symbolic one, it stands as a testament to the Egyptians' profound obsession with immortality and their belief that death was not an end, but a transformation. It reminds us that for them, architecture was not only an art, but a language of the divine, each stone a prayer, each chamber a step toward the eternal. Almost a century before this discovery, another artifact would challenge our understanding of ancient Egypt in a different way. In 1898, archaeologist Walter Emery unearthed a small limestone figure in the necropolis of Saqqara. At first glance, it seemed simple enough. A carved bird, delicate and aged, perhaps a child's toy or a ceremonial token. Yet the longer experts studied it, the stranger it became. This Saqqara bird, as it came to be called, bore features no ordinary sculpture would have. Its wings were curved, not flat, angled in a way that suggested lift and aerodynamic precision. Its tail, instead of the typical spread of feathers, was carved into a vertical stabilizer, nearly identical to the rudder of a modern aircraft. The more scientists examined it, the more it resembled a glider than a bird. At first, scholars dismissed these observations. Surely it was just an artistic interpretation of a falcon, the sacred bird of Horus, god of the sky. After all, Egyptian tombs were filled with animal figures representing divine forces. But as aviation technology developed in the 20th century, engineers began to notice that the Saqqara bird's design echoed key principles of flight discovered thousands of years later. Its proportions and wing curvature followed patterns remarkably similar to those of early gliders. Could this small figure, carved over 2 millennia before Christ, be evidence that the ancient Egyptians understood aerodynamics? Some enthusiasts have gone as far as to suggest that it was a model for an ancient flying device, a test piece for an invention that has since been lost to time. When replicas of the bird were built and tested in wind tunnels, they demonstrated surprisingly stable flight when fitted with a small horizontal tail, fueling speculation that its original form might once have included one. Others maintain that such interpretations stretch too far, that the artifact is symbolic rather than scientific. To them, the Saqqara bird is a spiritual emblem, representing the soul's flight to the heavens or the pharaoh's journey to join the gods. In this sense, it might not be an ancient aircraft, but a metaphor for transcendence, perfectly in keeping with Egyptian theology. Yet the elegance of its design makes coincidence difficult to accept. Its balance, symmetry, and aerodynamic realism defy explanation as mere art. Even if it was symbolic, it suggests a level of observational sophistication that borders on the scientific. Some researchers speculate that the Saqqara bird could have been part of a ritual demonstrating the concept of spiritual ascent, perhaps even used in funerary ceremonies. The Egyptians saw flight as sacred, the ultimate expression of liberation from earthly bounds. To them, birds were messengers of the gods, symbols of the soul's freedom. A figure capable of flight, even if symbolic, might have represented the journey from death to divine reunion. Others see it as something more tangible, perhaps the remnant of lost knowledge, a fragment of technology from an earlier epoch. Could it be that ancient engineers once experimented with flight, and their discoveries vanished long before written history began? Was the Saqqara bird a survivor from a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity, just as the Sphinx may be a survivor from a forgotten age? Whatever the truth, the small limestone bird remains one of Egypt's most haunting enigmas. It sits quietly in a museum case, its wings frozen mid-flight, daring us to imagine what its creators once knew. Whether a spiritual symbol or a technological artifact, it challenges our assumptions about the limits of ancient knowledge. Each time we gaze upon it, we are reminded of the same truth whispered by every relic Egypt has left behind, that the line between myth and history, between symbolism and science, is thinner than we think. And somewhere in that narrow space, between the divine and the practical, between faith and discovery, lies the true story of a civilization that continues to defy the passage of time. The mystery of the Saqqara bird continues to fascinate both researchers and enthusiasts, not just for its craftsmanship, but for what it might represent, a possible glimpse into a forgotten understanding of flight. Modern aerodynamics, the science of how air interacts with solid surfaces, didn't formally emerge until the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Yet certain elements of this ancient artifact's design seem to reflect those very principles, suggesting that the ancient Egyptians may have grasped ideas about lift, balance, and motion through air long before the modern world rediscovered them. When studied closely, the Saqqara bird stands apart from the artistic conventions of its time. Egyptian art was famously symbolic and stylized. Animals were depicted according to religious meaning rather than natural realism. But this small limestone figure defies those norms. Its sleek, tapered body looks less like a creature carved for worship and more like a deliberate study in symmetry and airflow. The body is smooth and streamlined, similar to the fuselage of a glider, while its tail curves upward at an angle that mirrors the stabilizing fins used in modern aircraft to control balance and direction. The wings are even more telling. Unlike typical depictions of birds, which feature flat, spread wings, the Saqqara bird's wings tilt slightly downward, a subtle but significant feature. This design mirrors the dihedral angle used in contemporary gliders to enhance stability and lift. By angling the wings, air pressure increases beneath them, generating lift and keeping the object steady in flight. Though the limestone figure is too heavy to fly, its design mimics the mechanics of an object made to glide. Such precision has led some to propose that the artifact might have served as a model, a concept piece illustrating the principles of flight. In the 1970s, this idea was put to the test by Dr. Khalil Messiha, a professor of aeronautics. His team built a replica of the Saqqara bird, maintaining its proportions and angles, but constructing it from lightweight materials similar to what the ancient Egyptians might have used for prototypes. When tested in a wind tunnel, the replica performed astonishingly well. It glided smoothly, generating lift and maintaining balance with remarkable stability. Further experiments by independent researchers confirmed these findings. Even simple hand-launched replicas demonstrated controlled glides, hinting that whoever designed the original understood aerodynamics intuitively. Though these tests don't prove that the Egyptians built flying machines, they do suggest that someone in that ancient world had at least contemplated how objects could move through air efficiently. Could the Saqqara bird have been part of a scientific experiment, or perhaps a ritual object symbolizing ascension? It's impossible to say for certain. Some scholars believe it was a teaching tool used by priests or temple engineers to demonstrate principles tied to the heavens, a symbolic expression of the soul's flight to the gods. Others see it as a miniature representation of a forgotten technology, an echo of lost experimentation with flight long before modern aviation. The Egyptians viewed flight as sacred. Birds were messengers of the gods, and to soar was to transcend mortality. The act of rising toward the heavens was deeply woven into their spiritual beliefs. Thus, even if the Saqqara bird was purely ceremonial, it could still have embodied profound symbolic meaning, a bridge between earth and sky, body and spirit, human and divine. Still, the artifact's aerodynamic accuracy cannot easily be dismissed as coincidence. Every angle and contour seems purposeful. The proportions of its wings, the curvature of its body, and the upward tilt of its tail suggest an understanding of balance and motion that goes far beyond mere artistry. Whether by scientific reasoning or spiritual intuition, the designer of the Saqqara bird created something that speaks the universal language of flight. Some theorists go further, proposing that it might represent a fragment of forgotten knowledge, a surviving relic from a civilization whose technological achievements were later lost to history. They argue that Egypt's ancient priests, engineers, or astronomers may have preserved fragments of advanced understanding passed down from an earlier, now-vanished culture. Whatever its origins, the Saqqara bird challenges our perception of ancient civilizations. It blurs the boundaries between mythology and engineering, between faith and science. Even if it was never meant to fly, it captures an idea that defines humanity itself, the desire to rise beyond the limits of the earth and touch the unknown. Decades after its discovery, the Saqqara bird remains one of Egypt's most provocative enigmas, quietly perched in its museum case, its wings forever poised for flight. It asks questions that still hang unanswered in the air. Did the ancient Egyptians experiment with flight? Did they understand aerodynamics before the rest of the world? Or did they simply, through artistry and devotion, capture in stone the dream of soaring toward eternity? As investigations continue, each new study adds a layer to the mystery. Perhaps one day, further discoveries will reveal whether the Saqqara bird was a symbolic masterpiece or the echo of a long-lost science. Until then, it remains what it has always been, a small, silent messenger from the past, carrying within its curved wings the eternal human longing to ascend toward the sky.